Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's discussion on the benefits of the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program. My name is Linda Williams, and I am a Community Outreach and Training Manager with Consumer Action. And on behalf of the entire staff at Consumer Action, welcome. Well, it's been almost a year since the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, launched the Affordable Connectivity Program, offering long-term internet discounts to low-income households. Yet, it is being reported that millions of eligible families are not taking advantage of the savings. Why? Well, the reason appears to be that consumers are unaware of the program existence. That's right. It's been reported that up to 75% of eligible households, especially low income and in communities of color, don't know that they could qualify for the federal broadband benefits. They don't know that the program even exists. So today we're going to have a conversation and we're going to highlight the ACP benefits and the enhanced tribal benefits. We're going to discuss eligibility for the program and how eligible households can apply for these benefits. We're going to highlight the consumer protections that are offered by the ACP and how consumers, if they have a complaint or they feel that their rights have been violated, how they can file a complaint with the FCC. We're going to go over resources and toolkits for consumers. Why? Because, like I said, 75% of eligible households who may be eligible for the benefits of the program are not don't know the program exists. We're also going to give you updates on the FCC's outreach grant program so that if your organization is interested, they can apply for benefits that will put some money in their pockets to go out and reach those individuals and educate them about the benefits so we can decrease that 75% number and get it down to 1% or less. We have two subject matter experts today that's going to lead the discussion on the benefits. EJ Johns is here. EJ is a policy and research analyst with the American Indian Policy Institute at Arizona State University. Alma Hughes is in the house. Alma is a consumer education and outreach specialist in the Consumer Affairs and Outreach Division of the FCC. So take that last sip of your coffee, take that last sip of your tea, break out your pen and your paper and buckle up because we bring in the fire today. Now, before I get into today's program, before I get too excited, let me review a few housekeeping items and thank our sponsor and update you on what's happening at Consumer Action. Today's session is a 90-minute webinar. If you have any questions for our guest speakers, and we hope you have a ton, please use that question function on your screen to ask your questions. At the end of all presentations, my coworker, Nelson Santiago, is going to facilitate a question and answer segment. So throughout the presentation, Nelson will be capturing your questions and he will present your questions to our guest speakers at the end of all presentations. So send Nelson a ton of questions. This is where we get to hear from you. So send Nelson a ton of questions. Now, tomorrow afternoon, you will receive a link to the PowerPoints used by our guest speakers today and a few handouts. Now, AFC professionals, you will receive a password tomorrow to claim your 1.5 CE units. Let me say that again. AFC professionals, you will also receive the password tomorrow that you will use to claim your 1.5 CEUs. Okay, now at the end of the webinar, you will receive a survey regarding today's session. This is where we get to hear from you again, so please complete the survey and return it to us as soon as possible. In addition, as a bonus for attending the day, you will receive a certificate of completion. How about that? Now, let me stop for a second and thank our sponsor. This webinar is presented by Consumer Action with funding from AT&T. So I'm going to give a shout out to AT&T for their support. So what do we do at Consumer Action? I know you're asking that question. What do we do at Consumer Action? As is stated on the screen, Through education and advocacy, we fight for strong consumer rights and policies that promote fairness for all consumers, but especially for underrepresented consumers nationwide. At Consumer Action, we are extremely proud of all of our work, but you have to check out our COVID-19 educational project. It was created with the consumers that you serve in mind. So when you're on our website, you see that little burgundy link in the middle? Click on that burgundy link and you will land on our COVID-19 educational project page. There you will find a ton of resources that your clients can use, guides, fact sheets, and past web links to past webinars, such as the impact of COVID-19 on the mental health of children, the impact of COVID-19 on food insecurities, and the truth about the COVID-19 vaccine. Just to name a few, there's a ton of webinars there that I think would be of interest to you. Check it out. When you're on our website, don't leave without checking out our COVID-19 educational project. Now, if you are interested in some materials on the ACP that you can share with your client communities, well, when you're on our website, please download our multilingual guides for consumers on the low-cost internet. We created a guide on the Lifeline and Connectivity Program that will be very helpful in educating that 75% of those consumers who don't know anything about the ACP. Also, we have another guide, Getting Up to Speed, that discusses the benefits of broadband internet. And we also have a very detailed guide on the ACP for tribal land. All of the guides are free, they're relevant, and they're available as a download. So when you're on our website, don't leave without downloading the guides, reading it, checking it out, and passing it on to your clients. Now, let me go over the roadmap so you'll know where we're headed today. We open every training, whether it's virtual or in person, with the game, and the name of the game is How Much Do You Know? So today we have 3 true or false questions, all about the ACP Outreach Grant Program. So please get ready to answer these questions. After the game, I will introduce you to our guest speakers in the order they will present. The question and answer segment led by Nelson Santiago will follow. I will come back, tell you how you can donate to Consumer Action, and wrap up. So let me tell you how the game was played. There are 3 true or false questions. First, I will read the question. You will use the poll function to answer each question, and you're going to answer true or false. I will give you a couple of seconds to answer the question, then I will close the poll. We will take a look at the results, and I will tell you if the statement that I read to you is true or false, or why. And the person with the highest number of correct answers, drum roll please, will receive the bragging rights to How Much Do You Know? So are you ready? Are you ready? Let's roll out the first question. Okay, true or false? The ACP Outreach Grants Program's goal is to increase awareness and participation in the ACP among eligible households. Is that true or is that false? Wow. Let me close the poll and let's take a look at the results. You are doing fantastic. That statement is a true statement. So 1%, you're going to have to listen hard to the rest of the information today. Okay, that's great. Let's move on to the next question. The last day for interested applicants to apply for a grant under the ACP Outreach Program is March the 1st, 2023. Is that true or is that false? Couple more seconds, couple more seconds. Okay, let's close the poll and take a look at the results. "67% of you think that's a true statement. 33% thinks that's a false statement. 33%, you are correct. That is a false statement. According to the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, the applications are due January the 9th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're interested in applying for a grant, we suggest that you start that process as soon as possible, as there are several steps you need to take. Now, let me say it again. That statement is false. It is false. So on March the 1st, if you're trying to submit your application, I don't want you to say Linda Williams told me that the deadline was March the 1st. That is false. The deadline is January the 9th, 2023. Thank you. You're doing great. Come on, let's go to the last question. Okay, this is the last poll question. A variety of organizations are eligible to apply for a grant, including nonprofits without a 501c3 status and workforce development agencies. Mm. Is that true or is that false? Nonprofits without a 501c3 status and workforce development agencies can apply for the grant. Is that true or is that false? Okay, let's close the poll and take a look at the results. 59% believes that's a true statement. 41% thinks that's a false statement. Well, according to the information I have, that is a true statement. 501c3 nonprofits do not have to have a 501c3 status to apply, and workforce agencies can apply. Applications are open to government and non-government entities, including nonprofit organizations without 501c3 status. Now, thank you so much for playing the game, and I want to let you know that all of the questions were taken from an article on the Digital Inclusion website, and a copy of that article will be included with the materials that you will receive tomorrow. It's a very, very informative article. Now, let me introduce you to our first speaker. E.J. Johns is a policy and research analyst with the American Indian Policy Institute at Arizona State University. He is a member of the Navajo Nation from Bandawagan, New Mexico. He received his JD from the University of New Mexico School of Law in 2016 with a concentration in Indian law. Prior to that, EJ received his bachelor's degree in poli science from the University of New Mexico in 2013. His interest in law and policy came from his time interning in the DC office of Senator Jeff Brigham, Democrat from New Mexico, in 2011 as an undergrad. Before coming to AIPI, EJ had been working on tribal government reform and development with the Office of Navajo Government Development in Window Rock, Arizona. Welcome to the webinar, EJ. Our second guest speaker is Alma Hughes. She is a consumer education and outreach specialist in the Consumer Affairs and Outreach Division with the Federal Communication Commission. In her present position, Ms. Hughes provides outreach to numerous communities, including K through 12, older adults, educating them on the importance of telecommunication programs, as well as rules and policies that have been implemented by the Commission. Welcome, Alma. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over to our first speaker, E.J. Johns. But E.J., before you get into your presentation, please can you give our audience a little background on AIPI and the work that the Institute is doing? You have control.
Thank you. Thank you for that welcome. And thank you to everyone who's participating today. Really appreciate your time and attention. So again, my name is EJ John. I am a policy analyst with the American Indian Policy Institute. We are a research institute that is housed here at the Arizona State University. And a lot of our work has been concentrated in the areas of telecommunication, as well as broadband internet, And we work on a variety of different issues here. We've everything from public safety in tribal communities to some of the effects of climate change, mitigating climate change, as well as looking at just the operations and education on tribal government. So thank you again, and I'm really excited to be here and to talk to you all about a little bit first about the digital divide on Indian country. So here's a photo of our staff. Our director is standing in the middle. That is Dr. Tracy Morris. Those of you who've worked in telecommunications might recognize Dr. Tracy Morris. She is a recognized expert in tribal issues that deal with telecommunications as well as internet connectivity and broadband internet. She's worked here at the university since 2010. AIPI was established in 2006. So we're fairly new, but we've been able to do a lot of work in that short time. Um, so a lot of the work that we've worked on in the area of broadband access is to really focus on the access and availability that tribal communities have to broadband, and what are the challenges about that, and how do we go about fixing and addressing a lot of those challenges. Some definitions that I'm going to be using in my talk today. You're going to hear me use the word tribes or tribal nations or tribal communities. And when I use those terms, I'm referring to indigenous communities here in the United States that are recognized by the US government as sovereign political entities. So that means that tribes and tribal nations are political entities, much like a state is a political entity. And states have their own set of laws and regulations. States have their own um, public safety and police departments and divisions, and states have their own court systems. So all of those things that you would think of that exist in a state system also recognize are also established in tribal government systems for tribal nations. When I talk about Indian country, I am talking about the jurisdiction that goes along with tribal nations. You're going to hear me say Indian country a lot, and I know the term Indian is kind of a dated term to refer to Native Americans, but unfortunately, that's the term that was adopted as a legal definition for the jurisdiction. So when people refer to Indian country or Indian law, they really mean the legal jurisdiction and the legal subject matter that deals with tribal nations. Unfortunately, it's Indian country. Hopefully someday somebody can update that term in the law textbooks and things like that. So next, you're going to hear me talk a little bit about the federal trust relationship. And this is the legal obligation that was established for the federal government in their dealings with tribes. So if you look at the slide there, the United States has charged itself with the moral obligations of the highest responsibility and trust towards Indian tribes. That means that the federal government has a responsibility to make sure that basic needs are met for tribal communities. It has the obligation to look out for a tribe's best interest, especially since no tribe owns their land outright. A lot of the land that tribal communities are now established on and that in the land that they occupy right now is the main title to those lands are still held by the federal government, and therefore tribes are able to use that land through a trust relationship, and so a legal trust relationship. And so the federal government in that case is the entity that makes sure that those lands are used in the best interest for tribes. And that applies to a lot of other ideas such as getting infrastructure built in tribal communities. That's something that is also part of that legal obligation. And when you talk about infrastructure, that also includes broadband and broadband connectivity. So starting off with a few basic demographics for tribal communities. According to the 2020 census, there are about 9.7 million people who have self-identified as tribal community members. I'm sure some of you have heard about how the 2020 census was really affected by COVID and other things that resulted in undercount for a lot of communities. And we here at AIPI um, and some of our partner organizations have kind of come to the conclusion that that's probably an undercount. There's probably more people than 9.7 million, but that's still a significant jump from the 2010 census. So using those numbers, that means about 2.9% of the US population has self-identified as being a part of a tribal community, being a member of a federally recognized tribe. And here in the United States, there are 574 sovereign federally recognized tribal nations. That doesn't include tribes that are not recognized by the federal government. There are many tribal communities that are maybe recognized by a state or who don't have that official recognition, but they still have a constituency and they still have interests that they advocate for. They may not be land-based either. They might not have land where they're officially situated, but there is an area where people who are part of those unrecognized tribes live and work. So those are also out there. There are 334 reservations in 35 states, and reservations are the parcels of land that were set aside for tribal use and for tribal communities to live on, especially in light of some of the forced relocation policies that took place around the early 1900s and late 1800s, and pretty much since the founding of the United States, you've seen a lot of that happen and a lot of relocation to certain areas. So those parcels of land that are reservations, those are officially recognized tribal jurisdictions, like I talked about earlier. And out of those set asides of land, there's 334 of those. So, and that accounts for about 100 million acres. So it's a pretty large area that you're talking about. My home tribe, my home community, the Navajo Nation, is an area that occupies northern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, southern Utah, and a little part of Colorado around the Four Corners area. And the area of our reservation is about the same size as West Virginia. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big one area is. So when I talk about digital divide, um, and it's a little different from digital equity. You may have heard these two terms if you work in the field of broadband or work with, you know, issues trying to connect people to broadband. And the digital divide is really kind of the problem that we talk about. That's the divide between different communities in terms of broadband access. Some communities who are maybe living in urban areas, who are affluent, they have really good access to internet. They have the access to the fiber optic internet. They're able to use it for work, for streaming content like movies and music. They're able to use it for even gaming, interactive technologies. Um, and so other communities don't have that same access. Some communities may only have access to DSL internet, which is run through phone lines, which is not as fast. You can't do as much on. Some communities might only have access through mobile phones, which is another internet experience that doesn't allow you to do as much. So that's kind of the issue. Digital divide is looking at the inequality between all these different communities and what it would take to get everybody on the same point. Now, the term digital equity refers to the work that we here at AIPI and other organizations do to try and level that divide, to kind of bring that divide together. Digital equity work includes things like advocating for broadband policy. It includes public education, educating community members on new technologies. It includes educating policymakers, community leaders, elected leaders about what broadband internet is and how to get it into communities and how to get people connected. So those two terms you kind of hear interchange sometimes, but when we talk about it here at AAPI, that's kind of what we mean. Digital divide is the problem. Digital equity is the work that we do to solve that problem. This is some of the initial stats that we've collected here at AIPI. We did a study of Native American students here at Arizona State University, and we talked to them about what their internet access looked like. And this was data that was collected right around the end of 2018 and published in 2019. So it was right before COVID. And before that, we saw that 18% of our respondents said that they had no internet access whatsoever at home. And these were students that were coming from all over the Southwest region. So that's here in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada. So out of all the students we talked to, 18% didn't have any connectivity whatsoever. About 49% had access to some kind of internet, land-based internet technology. So something like cable or DSL, or even dial-up. So a good number of our respondents said that they still use dial-up, or dial-up was the only technology available to them. 33% indicated that they relied on their cell phone for internet service at home. So at home they didn't have access to anything else, but they were able to get internet on their phone, and that's how they primarily access the internet. And 31% reported that they had no internet connection and they had no smartphone connection as well. So, and if they did, it was either low quality or spotty. So those were the numbers that we're dealing with, and those are very much we're guessing that those are the same numbers throughout COVID. There has been a government report that came out finding the same kind of numbers that came out last year for 2020. So those statistics seem to have kind of carried through the pandemic, and hopefully we're able to fix that in the next year or two. This is a map of where a lot of Native American tribal nations are located here in the United States. As you see, a majority of them are located kind of west of the Mississippi. A lot of these are the reservations I mentioned earlier where tribal communities were forced to relocate. A lot of that happened for the peoples who live now in Oklahoma. But it gives you a general area of where these communities are. And a lot of these are in rural areas, right? A lot of them are in kind of mountainous areas where there's rough terrain, a lot of geological barriers to internet. A lot of them are in rural areas where there's no metropolitan cities or large areas that does have internet. These communities aren't located near those places. So that gives you that idea of here in the continental US. Alaska is a different story. Alaska has, for one, Alaska has many more tribal communities. Not all of these are federally recognized. Some of these communities are Alaskan villages and are groups of indigenous peoples, but they still are able to advocate on behalf of their group. So they're kind of located in all these different areas. And the terrain here is definitely a challenge. There aren't, not only is there not internet in these areas, but there's no other infrastructure, right? Like running water, power lines, roads, that's all of that is a challenge in the Alaska region. But these are still people who are entitled to that federal trust that I talked about earlier, and these are still groups that are looking to get that connectivity for their communities. So let's see. With that, I believe I will hand the presentation over. Just wanted to give everyone a quick overview of the broadband connectivity situation for tribal nations. So thank you.
EJ, thank you. That was awesome. Great information. We will hear from EJ again, but let me turn the webinar over to Ms. Hughes. Amo, our audience out there, they are eager to learn more about the benefits of the ACP program, who's eligible, and how consumers can apply for benefits. So I think you have control, and I'm just going to let you run away with it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Linda. And thank you, EJ, for the information. Hi, again, my name is Alma Hughes from the Federal Communication Commission. And I'm going to try to make you more aware of the ACP benefit program. And hopefully, after you hear this, you will be running to like, okay, let me apply for this. So I'm going to try to advance my screen. And we're going to talk a little bit about what is the program, who is eligible, and how can households apply. And towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to show the application itself, and you can see what the application looks like. So I'm going to move forward. What is the benefit? The Affordable Connectivity Program is a federal communications FCC program that provides a discount on monthly broadband bills for qualifying low-income households. Eligible households can receive up to $30 a month discount for broadband service and associated equipment rentals. And I'll tell you about the equipment rentals in just a second. If you live on a tribal land, as I believe EJ mentioned, you can receive up to $75 a month discount for households on tribal lands. And you also can receive a one-time discount for $100 for a laptop, desktop, or tablet purchased through a participating provider. But you, as the purchaser, must contribute at least $10 to $50 as a co-payment. But you'll get a $100 discount, but you must contribute from $10 to $50. What is a household? A household is a group of people who live together and share money, even if they are not related to each other. If you live together and share money, you are one household. If you either don't live together or you don't share money, you are two or more households. A household can qualify because of eligible dependent children that meet the eligibility criteria, and I'll explain that in just a minute. You may have to answer questions about your household when you apply for the Affordable Connectivity Program. A household worksheet will be available to assist in determining your household eligibility. And it may seem like I'm running through this, but at the end, I believe there's a time for questions and answers. Examples of household. One household, a married couple who live together must share one ACP benefit. A parent/guardian and child who live together must share one ACP benefit. An adult who lives with friends or family who provides financial support must share one ACP benefit. Multiple household. 4 roommates who live together but do not share money are 4 separate households. All 4 can receive the ACP benefit. 30 seniors who live in an assisted living home but do not share money are 30 separate households. All 30 can receive the benefit as well. A student who receives a federal Pell Grant and lives alone in a different household than his or her parents. Both the student and their parents are separate households and can receive their own benefit. A household is eligible if household income is at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, and I will show you that guideline towards the end of this presentation, or if a member of the household meets at least one of the criteria below, participates in certain assistance programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, notice I said Medicaid and not Medicare, federal housing assistance such as public housing, housing choice voucher program, which is Section 8, program-based rental system, SSI, WIC, or Lifeline. Participate in tribal Pacific programs such as Bureau of Indian Affairs General Assistance, tribal tennis, or food distribution program on Indian reservations. Participate in the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program, including the Community Eligibility Provision. Receive a Pell Grant in the current award year. Receives Veterans Pension or Survivors Benefits, or meets the eligibility criteria for participating providers assisting low-income program. Now, I want to jump back up to the top where it mentions about the household income at or below 200%. You either can apply that or one of the other criteria, not the income and a lot of people get that mixed up, think they must do both. But either the household income, which is at below 200%, or one of the other criteria. Let me go back. How does the ACP protect consumers? FCC rules protect Affordable Connectivity Program recipients by empowering consumers to choose the service plan that best meets their needs, including a plan they may already be on, ensuring consumers have access to supported broadband service regardless of their credit status, prohibiting providers from excluding consumers with past due balances or prior debt from enrolling in the program, preventing consumers from being forced into more expensive or lower quality plans in order to receive the ACP, ensuring that consumers are not liable for early termination fees, reducing the potential for bill shock or other financial harms, allowing ACP recipients to switch providers or broadband service offerings, and providing a dedicated FCC process for ACP complaints. I want to jump back up here where it says preventing consumers from being forced into more expensive or lower quality plans in order to receive. And I want to elaborate on that because that is so important. And the reason why I say this because we have had complaints where a consumer says that their provider said they must go into this higher program to receive the benefit, or they must go into this lower program. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not true. If you already have a plan, you can stay at that plan. The provider cannot force you into a higher or lower plan. Please know that. There are 3 ways to apply for the Affordable Connectivity Program. You can apply online, log in, or create a new account to complete the ACP application. You can also apply online with the assistance of your internet company. You can mail the application in. You can print an application in English and Spanish only, but there are application instructions available in 9 other languages. USAC strongly recommends including a household worksheet with your application, English and Spanish, and also the worksheet is set in 9 other different languages. You can complete the application and household worksheet, that's if you're doing this by mail, and send them along with your proof of documentation to this address listed here. Or the 3rd way, you can contact your internet provider and you can apply it to them. Now, let me emphasize and say, if you mail your application in, and whatever documentation that you are sending to prove that you are eligible for this program, please send a copy. Do not send the original of your Medicaid card or your WIC card because you will not get that back. So we ask you to make a copy of that if you're mailing it in and send it along with your application. Now we have different resources that you can go to to get assistance or more information for the ACP. You have this AC Consumer Hub. We have this helpline. You can call the ACP Support Center at the number listed here, 877-384-2575, or send an email to acpsupport@usac.org. And I will tell you that there is a live person behind that telephone number because I had to call them several times and I was able to speak with someone and get assistance. We also have a consumer FAQ at this website here. USAC has an ACP claims and enrollment tracker where you can go at this site here, this link here, to see how many has enrolled. And I believe you can see how much money is left. I should have said at the beginning of this presentation that Congress and the White House, they signed off on a $14.2 billion for this program here, which is a lot of money. They also have a toolkit. They have a lot of different interesting things on there. We have accessibility FCC 504 at fcc.gov link. To apply, you would go to this link here. And if you have any questions, you can always contact their email, acpinfo@fcc.gov. All these links are still working. And I believe Linda may have this, and she probably can send it out to you. But if anybody have any questions or want this information, they can contact acpinfo@fcc.gov. Now, what I'm going to do here in these next few slides is just, some may can see and may not, just bring out what the application form will look like, whether you do it online or you mail it in. But and I think it's 8 pages, really 7 pages, and I'll tell you why just 7, not 8. So this is the it'll tell you about the ACP. On the next page, the second page, this is where you would put your information, and it's just the basic information like your full legal name. Why we say your full legal name? Because if you're going to apply based on you receive Medicaid, and if Medicaid has your name as Sue Washington, then that's how you will put your name. Do not put Susan Washington if Medicaid has it as Sue Washington. So you want to put your full legal name here, and middle initial is optional. Your telephone number if you have one, your date of birth, your email address, and an email address, whether you're going to do it online or by mail, is important because that's how they can send the status of your application. You will receive it much quicker versus if they had to mail you a letter. So an email address is highly recommended. Now your identification verification, we ask for the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, if that's the way you want to be identified. And Social Security number helps because if you're applying via SNAP or Medicaid, your information is already in the system. And with those 4 digits, last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and if your legal name being Sue Washington, that's a very quick way of them verify you. Then USAC has a national verification system that can verify your information. Or if you do not want to use if you have a tribal number and you're applying that way, you put your tribal number, identification number there, or you can verify your identity through a driver's license, military ID, a passport, taxpayer identification number, or some other type of government ID number. Over on page 3, you want to list your home address. And it asks you, is this a temporary address? And it asks you, check here if you live on a tribal land. Then again, it's going to ask you for your mailing address. Sometimes our mailing address can be different from our home address. So it's important each question or each section should be filled out. If not, that will delay the process of your application. Over on page 4, this is where if you're qualifying through your child, whether your child received free lunch or free breakfast program, this is where you will fill out their full legal name, the child's date of birth, their last 4 digits of their social. And down here, or if not the Social Security number, if you're applying through driver's license, military ID, passport, taxpayer identification number, or other government ID. That is all they're going to ask you about the child. Then you'll go over and you will check on number 14. Check all programs that you or someone in your household has. So if you have SNAP, check that, Social SSI, Medicaid, and I'm going to say again, Medicaid, not Medicare. We tend to get that mixed up, and a lot of people had applied through Medicare, which was denied their application. Federal Public Housing Assistance, Veterans Pension or Survivor Benefit Program, a federal Pell Grant for the current award year, Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, which is WIC, or if you're applying through your child, Free and Reduced School Lunch Program. Also, I shouldn't have said that this is all for the child. Over here, if you are applying through your child, you want to list the school name, the school district, and the state. And if it's for tribal Pacific programs, you will list these items here. Or we go to page 6. This right here, if you're qualifying through your income, and remember I said 200% of the poverty. This is if you're applying 4 in a household, United States, 48 states, DC and its territory, 4 in a household, The poverty level is 55,500. Now, don't look over here in Alaska and Hawaii. We have had that happen. We're like, no, mine is 69,000. No, that's if you live in Alaska or Hawaii. But if you're in the United States, DC and its territory, and you got 4 in a household, this is the income level. 1 in a household is 27,180. Now, come January, this can change. So right now, up through the end of the year, this is the numbers for the poverty for 1 through 8, and it'll tell you down here if you're going over 8, it'll tell you how to you'll add $9,440 to that number. And I'm hoping as I'm going through, it's making sense. But we will have time for question and answer. Over here on page 7, this is an agreement form. You will read each one of these, and if you agree, you will put your initial. If your name is Sue Washington, you can put SW. If your name is Sue Lee Washington, you're only going to put SW, because I believe they will only allow 2 initials. You initial each one. Then you will go down here, you will electronic sign this and date it. You go to page 8, which if you are not a representative, such as an internet company or state and tribal partners, you can ignore page 8. Okay, this is for representatives only. That's why I say you will only be filling out between page 1 and 7. Now, this is so important. After you receive approval for the ACP benefit, you must then contact your preferred participating provider to select a plan and have the discount applied to your bill. Now, we get a lot of emails that they say, like, I applied 2 months ago. I was approved. I haven't received my benefit. That's because that individual did not contact the preferred provider. Your provider will not know that you've been approved unless you inform them. So it's so important that you will contact them. I just did this for my mother maybe about 2 weeks ago. She was approved right away. We called her provider. Her provider went through everything over the phone, and before she knew it, her discount was applied. Sometimes it can take 1 to 2 billing cycles to be applied, but for the first step after approval is to contact your participating provider to inform them. Okay, I think this will end my presentation on the Affordable Connectivity Program. And we've had questions. I'll hear from you later, and I'm going to turn it back over to, I guess, EJ or Linda.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alma. Now, if you're out there and you're trying to take notes and you missed a link or 2, don't worry. Remember, this session is being recorded, so you will receive a link to the recording tomorrow, and you will be able to go back and get those links that Alma mentioned. Now we are back with EJ, and EJ is going to tell us a little bit about the enhanced tribal benefits. EJ, let me give you back control. So you have control.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Alma, for all of that good information. So as you can see, the ACP is a really great program. It's really, broadband internet access has really become an equalizer for a lot of people who didn't have access to information and things like that before. You know, internet enables us to participate in telemedicine. It enables us to go to school remotely, to work remotely. So broadband internet has really become an essential service for a lot of people. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about those special provisions for tribal lands. So like Alma went over earlier, there is a $75 a month discount for internet service on tribal lands, and that one-time discount for $100 for a tablet or a laptop or a desktop computer is also available with a co-payment. And the reason why that benefit is available for tribal lands is It's really hard to get internet service in the locations where tribal communities are located. If you remember back to that map earlier, in those rural areas, there may only be one or two providers in that area. And a lot of the times they might just be a cell phone provider, and cell phone data plans are really expensive. Satellite internet plan is also available, and those plans are very expensive. So for those tribal communities, internet access is a little more expensive, and it takes a little more work for those people to get broadband internet access. So to be eligible for that tribal benefit for the ACP, Alma mentioned that your household has to be located on qualifying tribal lands, and you also have to qualify for those other ACP provisions, which is the 200% of the income of the federal poverty level, or you can be participating in any of these general programs. The tribal Pacific programs were mentioned, like BIA General Assistance. That's an assistance program that's offered through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we call it BIA for short. And those are assistance programs that can be anything from housing to general assistance for families. Every tribe has a different kind of assistance program set up. Some of them are run through the tribe, some of them are offered by the BIA at the tribe. So it's just going to kind of depend on what your situation is. If we go back earlier to those earlier slides again, there's 574 recognized tribes. So that means there's 574, potentially 574 different kinds of programs out there. So for people who are wanting to get the tribal specific program, please talk to if you receive a general assistance through BIA or from a BIA program, you can talk to your programs and get whatever is needed for your ACP application. Tribal Head Start is the same way. Tribal Head Start programs exist in a lot of tribal communities. So that's another thing that will qualify you for the tribal benefit. Tribal TANF is a tribal program that is for families, and so that is also operated by many tribes. So if you're a part of that program, I think most of the time those programs are called TANF. So like, for example, I'm from the Navajo Nation, so I know at Navajo Nation it's called Navajo Nation TANF program. So when you're participating in that program, you'll be able to qualify for that tribal benefit. Food distribution programs as well. Food distribution programs on tribal communities are sometimes operated by the tribes, or the USDA or BIA will come in and operate that distribution program. So if you're a part of that, then that also will qualify you. The FCC does have its own map to show where they have already kind of determined tribal lands to be located. So if you look at this map that shows you pretty much all of Alaska is determined to be tribal lands. You'll have to zoom in a little bit more. There might be some areas around Anchorage that are not tribal lands, but a majority of Alaska is considered to be tribal lands. And then there's areas throughout the contiguous US that are already determined to be tribal lands. So if you're somebody who is living in these areas and you're also able to qualify through the normal ACP provisions or through one of those tribal provisions, then you do have the chance to get that tribal benefit just by possibly living in one of these geographic areas. And then some more considerations about tribal lands. That includes any federally recognized Indian tribes reservation. There are some other communities that fall under categories of pueblos or colonies that have a little bit different definitions, but they're still drawn out areas in some parts of the country. There are places in Oklahoma designated as former reservations. Those areas are also considered tribal lands. In Alaska, Alaska Native regions that were established pursuant to ANCSA, or the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, are considered tribal lands for this program. And also Indian allotments. Indian allotments are kind of scattered all throughout the country. Those are also considered for tribal lands, Hawaiian homelands, of course. And then any other land that's approved for tribal purpose for any land that's approved as tribal for the purposes of the Lifeline program, or by the ACP from the FCC's Office of Native Affairs and Policy and Wireline Competition Bureau. Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I pressed the button too long there. So some application tips. Alma already went through some of the, showed you what the application looked like and talked a lot about, what you have to do to fill that out, which is really great. So some of these tips she already went over. If you do want to apply for that tribal benefit, please make sure to click on that confirm tribal qualification button on that online application. On the paper application, you'll also see a tribal lands box. Make sure that those are checked off and make sure that you mark those if you want to get the tribal benefit. And then there's the general kind of requirements that Alma went over about proving your identity through, a social security number. Tribal IDs are also valid under this program, and other identity documents that show your identity. And then the definition of a household is what Alma went over. And so I'm not going to go over that again. But for a lot of tribal communities, we do see a lot of residents that do have multiple households. So that is something that does allow multiple. The tribal benefit is also for multiple households as well that reside at the same address. One issue that kind of you see a lot in tribal nations is that there's not a lot of consistent addressing. So for tribal benefit applicants, if you don't necessarily know your street address or you might not have a street address, the application does have an option where you can go to a pin drop system where you locate your residence on a map and you can drop a pin on there like you would on Google Maps. Kind of works in the same way, so that's also available. You can also provide an address description too. And the address description is something like you kind of describe the location of your residence through directions from a main road or from maybe like a main building or like a school or something like that. Those are usually used in address descriptions. If you qualify for the ACP, but your household is not on qualifying tribal lands, you'll still be able to receive that ACP benefit that everyone else is able to qualify for, $30 a month, and that discount on devices. But unfortunately, you have to be on qualifying. Well, fortunately, or well, I would say unfortunately, I guess, but you would have to be on qualifying lands to qualify for the tribal benefit. That's the main requirement for that benefit. Just because, like I said, a lot of those tribal lands are in areas that it's really hard to get internet. So that's why they want to make sure that people in those areas are able to qualify for that additional tribal benefit. So I wanted to go a little bit over about the grant program that just came out. So the FCC just came out with the Affordable Connectivity Outreach Grant Program. This is a grant program that will focus on outreach for the ACP program to make sure that people are aware of the program, that they can get assistance for signing up for the program. And this grant program also has special tribal provisions within it as well. So if you are applying for this grant program, you're an organization that is wanting to help people to not only be aware of the AC program, but apply for it, then your organization will have to focus on outreach for people who live on those qualifying lands. The total amount of funding for this grant program is $10 million, and applicants who apply for amounts between 50,000 and, or applicants may be able to apply for amounts between 50,000 and $1 million based on who they're going to serve and things like that. And this is the eligibility for the tribal connectivity, or for the ACP outreach program, the tribal provisions of the ACP outreach grant program. So state governments, local governments, tribal governments are eligible, public housing agencies, FCC, oh, I'm sorry, tribal designated housing entities, social service providers, education organizations. So like we're an education organization here at AIPI, so we might fall under something like that if we wanted to. Nonprofit organizations, again, 501c3s is not required to apply for that outreach grant. So that's an option. Community-based organizations, including faith-based organizations, social service organizations, community anchor institutions. This includes things like universities or community organizations such as like maybe a library. In the tribal sense, a lot of the time that's going to be like a library or like a community, a tribal community entity. And then for public service organizations, and then there can also be applications from consortia of different agencies. So something, for example, maybe there's an entity that's a partnership between state government and a tribal government, and they can both come together and apply for that outreach grant opportunity. So, and then this is a slide for AIPI. I just want to throw that in there since we do extensive work with broadband. If you all would have any questions about broadband for tribal nations, or you want more information about broadband in tribal nations, please come check us out. We're on social media. The QR code goes to our website. So you can sign up for our newsletter. You can subscribe to our monthly policy updates where we summarize a lot of the news and happenings around tribal broadband. So thank you again, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, EJ. Let me turn it over to Alma Hughes. Alma, what can you tell us about the FCC's Outreach Grant Program? You should have control.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Thank you again, EJ. I kind of learned a little bit just now about the tribal land. Thank you for the information. Well, as far as let me get the ACP outreach grant. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share some links with you. There are not too many questions I'm going to be able to answer because this is new and it's still new to me and I'm still learning it. But I want to share some links with you and just tell you that the ACP outreach grant, the goal of the outreach grant program is to facilitate the promotion of the Affordable Connectivity Program and increase awareness of and participation in the Affordable Connectivity Program among eligible households. As you heard Linda mention at the beginning that, we're here to make you aware of this program. Now that you got a little bit more aware of this program, now we want you to reach out and apply for some of this money. Again, it's a lot of money out there, ladies and gentlemen, for you to receive. Now, here we say November 15, 2022, we had a webinar, and here's the link. And don't try to write the link down. I believe Linda will get it to you somehow, that you can check out the webinar on the ACP grant program. There was a notice of funding opportunity. There's an FAQ there. Windows for this application is open now and closes on January 9th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Again, it's open now and closes on January 9th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Information application could be found at this link, www.grants.gov. Any questions can be emailed to acpgrant@fcc.gov. The office hours info available on this link here, www.fcc.gov/ACP-grants. To assist eligible entities in preparing to submit a complete application, the FCC will host office hours from 12 noon to 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on these two dates, December the 16th, 2022, and January 4th, 2023. But You do not have to wait for those office hours. You can always send your questions to that email, acpgrants@fc.gov. You can send your question to me, and I will forward it to the correct person. I'm at Alma, ALMA .Hughes, HUGHES at fcc.gov. Alma.Hughes at fcc.gov. You can send your questions to me or to the ACP grants@fcc.gov. Now, to register for office hours for the ACP grants, you go to this link here to register if you want to participate in one of these office hours, December 16th and January 4th. Again, I would emphasize that the windows for application is open now and closes on January 9th, 2023, which is less than a month. A lot of us is right now getting caught up in our holiday shopping, etc., being with family. But if you are interested in this, you should take time out. Why is on your mind now and to apply for it? That is kind of all that I have that I'm going to give out today. But if you have any questions, I'll try my best. Also, I should say late applications after that date will not be accepted. The FCC expects to complete its review on these applications, make selection of the successful applications or applicants, and process awards on or somewhere around March 10th, 2023. So, application window is open, closes January 9th, late applications will not be accepted, and they're hoping to award the grants on or around March 10th, 2023. I hope I did my best to give you some information on that, but there's a lot of information out there. If you go to these particular links, especially www.grants.gov, you can go there and, or you can go to the www.fcc.gov/ACP-grants. You can go there to get information, or you can email me. Okay, Linda, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Alma. Now, before I turn it over to Nelson for questions, I have one quick question. You mentioned earlier that there's about $14 billion for the ACP program. Now, what happens to the program when that money runs out?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked that because I forgot to mention that. Now, somebody may have a question out there just like Linda. Well, how long will this program last? I do not have an answer there. It's an ongoing, it's almost a year since we've been up, and there's still billions of dollars sitting there. So now once this program comes to an end, your provider, say it's going to end, I'm just throwing this out there, say it's going to end December 2023. Your provider will notify you. It's the 60 days they're supposed to notify you. I forgot how many days in advance that you will be notified. You won't be just cut off just like that. You will get notification. But for me to sit here and tell you that this program will last until, I can't. Of course, you know, until the money runs out. But again, there is a lot of money still sitting out there. In the meantime, we need you to go out there, go online or by mail and apply so you can start receiving this discount.
Great, Alma, thank you. Thank you, EJ, as well, for the ton of great information. Now, let me turn it over to Nelson for questions. Nelson, do you have questions for our guest speakers?
Yes, we sure do, and I'll ask the questions. Both speakers are welcome to provide a response if they have something to add to the answers. The first one's just sort of straightforward, just a clarification. Is it with the program, the benefit, do you get either the discount on an electronic device or a discount on the service, or do you get both?
What do you get a discount on her device? Repeat that again, please.
A monthly discount on the service and monthly discount on, or not a monthly, but a discount on the purchase of a device, you can get both benefits or just one of those.
Yes, or on the broadband service, you'll get your $30 monthly discount, or if you're on the tribal land, $75. The device, that's a one-time discount. So, and you must purchase that device through your preferred provider. In other words, you can't go to Best Buy or Walmart, get that device and bring it back to your provider. You cannot. Now, I should also throw out that all providers are not participating in that part of the program on the $100 discount. You can, so when you talk to your provider, you can ask them, are they participating in that program? If they are, you can purchase a device through them, laptop, desktop, as a third device, through a tablet, through them. And Nelson, I see a question right here. Since I'm talking, if I can answer right quick, can you use the affordability connectivity program and keep your Lifeline discount? Yes, you can have both at the same time. Good question, very good question.
Excellent, yes. And then somebody is asking, approximately how much does the client end up paying, or can they end up paying nothing if the discount covers their service?
Yes, good question, good question. You say your bill right now is $48, okay? You're approved to start receiving a $30 discount, 30 from 40, 48, you only pay $18. If your bill is $28 and you apply and approve, then you'll be paying nothing because that $30 will cover it. Now, also keep in mind that if you're paying $28, of course the $30 will cover it. No, you will not receive the $2 that's left. And this discount will go straight to the provider. You would not receive a check in the mail. And the reason why I state that, because a lot of people think that they'll get this $30 check in the mail every month. No, that will go straight to your provider.
Thank you, Alma. And then somebody did ask, is the broadband speed going to be slower if you're getting it through ACP, or are you getting the same speed that other people are getting?
Well, all depends on what plan you're on. Say, for instance, your plan that you're on now, and you're satisfied with your speed, and you feel that you're getting good speed, with that $30 discount, you should get the same speed. So that's when I said, don't let your provider trick you into that you got to get a lower plan, a lower speed, or higher speed. You should receive the same speed that you're receiving now. That $30 discount should have nothing to do with your speed of service.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then EJ, this may be for you. We got a couple of questions about service in Hawaii. Do you have any information or resources on the digital divide, digital equity in Hawaii? I know you did mention the Hawaiian homeland as being eligible, but any other information about Hawaii?
I don't have too much information on Hawaii, but I am aware of some of the internet connectivity projects that are going on there. A lot of them are community-based or municipal, kind of, local government types of projects. So in those instances, I'm not too sure what their plans are that they offer to the customers in that area, but it's a challenge. Of course, it's a challenge to get internet to all parts of Hawaii, and so yeah, a lot of that has to take place through community projects, community coalitions to get that connectivity through.
Okay, thank you for that. And should you have any resources to get to us later, we can include them in our mailing, hopefully tomorrow for everybody. And for both of you, if you know of Alma especially, resources or links in Spanish. You gave us a lot of links. I don't know if you have some direct links in Spanish and actually other languages. Consumer Action generally publishes everything in 5 languages, but if you want to point me to some resources in Spanish and other languages, I can include links for people in the email we want to send tomorrow. Do you have access to something like that?
Good question. Let me after we get off this, let me double check and I'll find out the link that I sent you, are they out there in Spanish as well, or any other language? I'll find it out and I'll get back with you.
Great, thank you. Also, somebody asked whether to apply, when people apply online, are they required to use the service ID.me, ID.me, for proving who they are? So some people struggle, the person asking says that some people struggle navigating ID.me, even though the online application may be simple, then there's the issue of dealing with that process. Is that a problem you've been running into, or what is the requirement when you apply for ACP?
As far as identification purpose,
Yes. Do they need to use that service ID.me, ID.me?
I don't even know what is ID.me.
It's a way of proving who you are, but it doesn't, so it's not something that comes up. How do you prove who you are when you're applying online? Any challenges there?
There are a couple of ways. You can either do your last 4 digits of your social, or you can use your driver's license, military ID, a government issue ID, and there was 1 or 2 other items there. So you can use that to identify you.
Okay, so you haven't run into any complications with that part of it?
No. Again, when I'm helping someone in person, we've gone to some senior centers, whatever, and they use their last 4 digit social. It's they're not required to do that, but it speeds up the process of verifying them. Again, say if they receive SSI or Medicaid, and that's approved, and their last 4 digits, that helps speed up the process with the verification system. But you do not have to use your last 4 digits of your social. You can use one of them others, driver's license, military ID, and the others that's listed there. I don't have it in front of me anymore.
Okay, well, great. And if a lot of course, I'm sorry, go ahead, DJ.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to jump in really quick. I believe ID.me is that's a third-party kind of identity app, I think. And so this application uses the traditional kind of federal government ways of verifying your identification. So like Alma said, it can be your last 4 digits of your social, it can be your tax ID number. Some of those more traditional kind of identity avenues is what's used for the ACP application. I don't think you can use ID.me on this application, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But it's like Alma said, yeah, you can use those more traditional kind of federal government ways of identifying.
Well, great, thank you. That's reassuring. Thanks so much. And also for people, I mean, a lot of the people who are on the webinar now, of course, see clients every day. If somebody wants to help someone sign up for it, do you recommend they print out a paper application or help people online?
They can do either or. I mean, I almost prefer online when I'm helping, but it's the consumer. Do you want to mail in or do you want to do online? They can help them either way. Now, when they get to their page where they have to, the agreement page, that consumer will have to initial off, because they would need to read that and initial it off, and at the bottom there, electronic sign it. But they can help them. Sure, they can help them, paper or online.
And if I could add to that as well, if you're planning to go out to a tribal community to help people sign up for this, chances are the internet access is not going to be very great there, so you will have to do something, either through phone or through paper. And it's kind of one of the funny aspects of the program, where it's intended to help people access the internet, but at least for tribal communities, a lot of those areas don't have very great internet access to begin with. So it kind of makes it hard to apply online. But if you're able to apply online and things like that, then I would go with Alma's suggestion, definitely.
Great, thank you.
Now,
Go ahead.
Nelson, can I also add, for anyone who's out there that's going to assist anyone whether you're going to do it online or on paper, especially online. When you're helping them online, there's 2 steps. You're going to first create an account for them, and it's a very basic account where they ask for their name, address, and a username and a password. Okay. Then once they finish that, it'll take them to the application process. Now, at the end of the application, they will receive what they call an application ID number. Sometimes a person that if you're sitting there helping them, they don't have all the documents, so they have to come back. Well, they can come back to the application because they got the username and password to sign in to that account, and then they can finish their the application itself. Now, at the end, say the application went through, they're going to be issued an application ID number. It's important that they write that number down because that number is another step to their verification or getting back into their application, if that makes any sense. There's 3 things they're going to write down. They're going to create the account, so they're going to write down the username and the password for that account. At the end of the application, once you submit it, it's going to give you an application ID number. If Sue Washington finished, she hit submit. At the end, it's going to give her Sue Washington an application ID number. That number is for her to keep in case she comes back and have any questions or want to know the status. That's one of the questions they're going to ask. Do you have an application ID number? If you do, she can give that to them. Boom, they can look it up. So those 3 things I think are important when assisting anyone or anyone online filling out the application.
Thank you, Alma. People are also asking how long the benefit will last. Not when the program is going to end, but whether people need to recertify every year, every 2 years, and what happens if they want to switch. And if they want to switch providers, can they transfer the discount to another provider?
Good, 2 good questions. Each year you will recertify, just like if anyone applied December, I don't even think it was ready for December 2021, then they'll be ready to recertify now. But once you're approved, a year from that date or right before that date comes, you should receive an email to inform you or remind you to recertify. On our ACP page, there is something there that will tell you about recertification. And Nelson, Linda, I'll point that out and I'll send that to you all that you can have for your information. So within a year, they require you to recertify. And you had another question.
Whether you could transfer your discount to another provider if you switch providers.
Once you're approved and you notify, say, Jim Bob Internet Company, because that's who you're with, you must wait at least 30 days before you can change internet companies. But yes, you can change, but you must wait 30 days before you can change.
Great, thank you. Someone wanted a little bit more clarification with the 200%. You showed some numbers. That's, if you could just clarify, that is 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, right? Making below that or up to that amount, is that what it is? And your numbers represent that?
It's 200%. Say, for instance, because it's at 200% for this particular program, I think it's, say, for in a household, say it was $55,500. If your household makes up to that amount, then and you're applying based on your income, then that will qualify you. If it's 4 in a household and your income is up to $55,000, whatever the number is listed there, then that will make you qualify. If it's just 1 in a household and the income is, I think it said $25,000, I don't have it in front of me, then if you make up to that, then that will qualify you for you being the 1 person in the household. And make sure you look at for the United States. There are a couple other columns for Alaska and Hawaii, I think. You don't want to look under that column. You want to look under, I believe it's the first column that lists the United States and its territories, DC and its territories, which you will look under. There's also a link. Say you're in the state, you are in the state of California, I believe. You're in California. There is a link that you can go to, companies near me. You either can put in your zip code or your city and state, and what will come up, a list of the providers that is participating in the ACP program. California probably have a lot. The state of California probably have a lot. So if you're not satisfied with the internet company that you have and you want to switch over, you can go there, plug in your zip code or your city and state to get a list of other internet companies, providers that are participating in this program. There's a lot of information out there for us to look at. So that is one of the places one of the information that you can look at.
Thank you, Alma. And in the handout that we'll send out tomorrow, we do have the link for finding the other providers.
Okay.
Let me just describe to you the situation here for the next question, and then maybe both EJ and you have some ideas. This person is currently in Ohio, where there is no cell phone service, and where they say if there's no cell phone service, individuals cannot get on Lifeline. They say in Appalachian, Ohio, because of the terrain, much like the tribal community, we don't have cell and or internet service, or if we do, it is spotty. So they're asking, so this program is only for obtaining the service, even if it's not available at your home. So is there any help for someone, or do you know of resources in a situation like this where there's such spotty service available? And how can this program help at all?
Nelson, and we just come from up in the area, Ohio, up in the Appalachian area. If you can forward that individuals, if they don't mind, forward it to me, I want to get a better answer for them. Again, we were just up there, and I'll be happy to reach out to them via email or whatever to give them a better answer.
Okay, great. And then, yeah, you already gave out your email, and I put it into the chat so everybody has that.
Okay.
And they can also reach out
to us. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, this is for that situation. It's really, unfortunately, it's really hard to kind of participate in programs like this, especially if there's no providers in your area. So, I mean, at least for tribal communities or in that situation, some people will look into like satellite internet, for example. But satellite internet can be expensive. Some people have looked into like low orbit satellite, which is like Starlink. Starlink is also pretty expensive as well, and this benefit will help, but some of the costs associated to that are really high. So that's just going to depend on the individual and just what providers can serve those remote areas. And so yeah, hopefully there is a solution that can help out in that situation.
Thank you, EJ, for that added information. Somebody's asking here again, related to Lifeline and how it works with this program. They say that they have Lifeline for internet currently. Can they use the ACP now for internet and then somehow use the Lifeline for cable service?
They again, they can have both Lifeline and ACP. ACP is for the broadband service, which is the internet service that they can use it for. The Lifeline, I believe, is used for the phone. As far as with the cable, they would need to talk to their Lifeline provider. But again, they can have both, and they can have the ACP to go towards their internet part of that. And speak with Lifeline, whoever's your provider for Lifeline, and ask them how would you go about crediting your Lifeline benefits to your service.
Thanks very much. And then here's a question related to those application IDs. The person is telling us that her client, or his or her client, ended up with 2 application IDs for ACP. does that mean that they have two separate accounts? She doesn't remember creating a login ID and password. If she cannot find the login information, how can this person help her client recover that?
Okay, very good question. Currently, and this has happened a lot. When this first came out, with the early part of the year, if not towards the end of last year, a lot of people did go on to try to apply for this. They didn't go through with it, but at the same time, the application ID number was assigned to them, and so they went back again. Now, if they went back again to sign up for this, they had to put some different information that they put in from the first one, because if they put the exact information in, the system would have told them that you already have an application on file, whatever the wording is. So what I suggest that they do, call USAC, because USAC is the one, is the agency, Universal Service Administrator Company. They're the ones who have access to all applications. They're the agency that has access to all the ID numbers. Give them a call and ask them, propose the question to them. Now, all depends on the time of day you call. Sometimes you might have a little hold, but again, there are live persons behind that phone. So give them a call, because now that since you have ID numbers, application ID number, you will need to speak with them for further instructions.
Thank you, Alma. And I know we're not gonna, unfortunately, fortunately we got a lot of questions, but we are running over time. So I just wanted to give you 2 more questions. And hopefully people have your contact information. They have our contact information. Please follow up with us and we can try to get answers to any unanswered questions. Somebody's asking, and it seems like a good question, you know, a lot of this in terms of outreach, we promote it all online. How, for example, how is the FCC getting the word out to people who are not online? How is the word getting out besides, say, promoting it online? And then the last question was about where to complain when you have problems.
We have a complaint. We do have a complaint dedicated line, and at the FCC, that office do read those complaints and they do something about it. Say, for instance, if you have a complaint about your provider, you would send it to the FCC complaint, and I'm looking for their email address, center. They would notify the provider of your complaint. You will also be notified. The provider has up to 30 days to answer that complaint, and you will be notified at the same time as well. So I'm looking for it. How we get the word out? One of the ways to get the word out is what we're doing today. Okay, we have been traveling since this started. Say back in January, February, we started traveling. We've been going all over doing awareness events such as what we're doing today to get the word out. The libraries, we'll provide information to libraries, to the housing communities, we'll provide information. So because you're on here today, you now have information, you are now aware of this ACP program. So we've been getting out, we've been traveling to get the word out, and we've been holding webinars such as this one, and we've been holding trainers. We do that as well to get the word out. And if anyone is interested in having a virtual trainer or virtual section or learning more about the ACP program, please let us know. Again, there's my email address. Let us know if you want us to train you, help you, to help those in your community to get the word out. We'll be glad to.
And EJ, did you have any other thoughts on getting the word out or outreach in the tribal community?
Yeah, that very problem of trying to get this awareness out to people who don't have access to online is a big kind of underlying reason for that outreach grant, right? So in tribal communities, information is usually kind of dispersed through other forms of media. So that's like maybe newspaper, radio, Well, before COVID, there was a lot of in-person gatherings, so a lot of information would kind of come through those kinds of meetings. But yeah, you have to get creative, and so that's where these partners come in. And through that outreach grant program, partner organizations have a really big opportunity to come up with innovative ways to help spread awareness. So we've worked with a few organizations here at AIPI to kind of come up with some of those solutions, but we're hoping that a lot more people will join and a lot more people will be able to become aware of the program.
Thanks very much to you both, and thank you for letting us know how to connect with you afterwards. Linda, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nelson. EJ, thank you both for taking time out of your day to provide our audience with such great information. Thank you so much. Again, I would like to thank our sponsor, AT&T. You can find information on our modules and the low-cost internet at the email address below. If you too would like to support us, you can do so online by credit card or by using PayPal at www.consumer-action.org/giving. Or you can send us a check for $20, $25, $30, $50 to Consumer Action Attention Membership given at 57 Post Street, 611 San Francisco, California. If you can't send a check, you can support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's free. And when you subscribe, it would help us continue to bring you these great webinars free of charge. On Monday, we released a recording on how to avoid Christmas scams. 'Tis the season to be scammed. So if you haven't had a chance to review that video, please do so and share that information with the communities you serve. Be on the lookout for our second release that's coming up. It's going to be on avoiding tax ID scams. One thing we know about the new year, it always brings in new scams. So look out for that recording on avoiding tax ID scams. Audience, I just want to thank you for all the support that you've given us this year. You are great. You're the best audience ever. And to our guest speakers, come on now, help me send them some love for those fantastic presentations. It's been a pleasure to serve your audience all year. Thank you for what you do. And on behalf of the entire staff at Consumer Action, happy holidays. And I'll see you next year. Goodbye now.